gentle sound of wind outside your window can be sort of comforting, right? Almost like white noise with the power to lull you into a calm sleep. What would we ever have to fear from the wind? During the 1800s, there were widespread reports from the Great Plains of an affliction known as prairie madness. The topography and climate of the prairie were punishing, with flat, empty lands stretching on for miles upon miles, separating neighbor from neighbor. Frontiersmen and women were isolated not only from their fellow homesteaders, but from friends and family back east. In the days before train travel or even a reliable postal service, one could not even depend upon visits or letters from loved ones as a source of comfort. The prairies were home to long, brutally cold winters, which would keep homesteaders trapped in their cabins for weeks on end. And even during the warmer months, the incessant sound of the wind whistling through every crack in a house was often said to have a maddening effect on the pioneers.
This land is funny, The wind never stops. It plays tricks on your mind.
The new horror film The Wind, directed by Emma Tammy in her film debut, focuses on the unendurable conditions of life on the Great Plains during this period. It draws upon two pillars of the horror genre, isolation and alienation, to build its tense and chilling narrative. In the film, Lizzie lives alone in a cabin with her husband Isaac, a stoic and pragmatic farmer who has little time for her fears about life on the prairie. Their closest neighbors are at least a mile away. At night, the lantern in their window is a mere point of light off in the distance. Emma and Gideon have just moved into an abandoned cabin nearby, bringing the total population of their isolated community up to 4 people.
Is there a church nearby? Not enough people around here yet. How many? No. 4.
Physical isolation is enough of a trial to overcome, but it's clear that Lizzie is emotionally alienated as well. We learn through a flashback that she gave birth to a stillborn son, but her husband doesn't seem interested in processing his grief beyond saying, "It was God's plan." This builds, however unacknowledged, a wall between the two of them. With the depiction of this subtly fractured relationship, it's vitally important that The Wind has a female director and a female screenwriter. They're able to believably develop a horror story about a woman who is isolated not only from society, but from her own husband. This narrative lends itself effortlessly to the concept that most women should find themselves familiar with, of knowing in their bones that something is wrong, only to have the men in their lives dismiss their concerns.
I've seen something. At night, I hear it too, whispering. I've told Gideon, but he doesn't believe me. Tells me it's the wind. There are many natural examples.
With The Wind, Emma Tammy creates a piece of surprisingly intimate, female-oriented historical horror. There are no jump scares in The Wind. It opts instead for a tense, pervasive sense of dread that permeates the entire film. By building a narrative that uses relatable feelings of isolation and alienation to develop its specific brand of horror, it creates an unnerving tone that is all the more intense because it feels so grounded in reality. We've all wished for a little solitude from time to time. But think of the last time you were home alone at night, listening to a faucet drip until you could swear the sound was coming from inside your own head, and you'll remember how quickly a blessing becomes a curse.